Hey folks, okay, we are back. We're ready to start sanding on this thing. Now normally, honestly, I wouldn't have to sand this at all because everything that you see that is surface is going to be painted black. But I'm going to go ahead and sand off at least 80 to 90% of this black layout stuff anyway. I'm just going to go ahead and use my my little disc sander, or actually my little random orbital sander. The disc sander, I think in this particular instance, might be a little too aggressive, a little too easy for me to tip. It's going to be challenging enough to do it with this. I've just got a 120 grit on here. Again, I want to have a fairly nice finish for that paint to go on. And so I'm going to go ahead and sand it off now. Vicky's not here, so I'm filming this by myself. So that's, I'm hoping I didn't get a weird angle or something. So I'm going to go ahead and stand up, finish this thing off, do the sanding part of it. Then when we come back, we'll get into the finishing it. So here we go. Okay guys, this is going to take me a little while to get this whole thing sanded off, but I'm hoping you could see what I was doing there. When I started here, I was starting to catch this lip on some stuff, but I found, and I kind of learned this through using the disc sander, that if I just tilt that just slightly and use that leading edge, it allows me to have much more control and a lot less chance of this thing actually catching, and actually that's on there kind of wonky anyway. But that helps me. By the time you could see I started here and working my way down, I had much better control on it by tipping that a little bit more. And anyway guys, I'm going to sand the rest of this off camera, and then when we come back we'll get a finish on this thing. Okay guys, sorry about that. One thing I forgot is these edges are going to be black. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spray them black, even though I'm not sure exactly how it's going to, how the one shot that is going to be, that I'm going to paint by hand on the surface here on that border, how that's going to blend in. I may have to take the one shot all the way down to the back. I'm just not sure, but I'm going to go ahead and use this matte black, the Krylon matte black, which you guys, I've been talking about for a few weeks now. This works just as good based on my experiments. It works just as good as the primer or the ink for my purposes. One thing I did have to do is make sure that I've got this masked off good, that I don't have any black that's going to get to that background. So hence the masking tape and the paper covering the sign. But I just thought one way or the other, even if I do have to take that that one shot black all the way to over the edge to the back of the sign, it still would be better if I had a black base to go over the top of it. Again, I don't know till I get into it, I don't know exactly how it's gonna blend in or not. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here now. I'm just going around making sure that I get that bottom chamfer, that bottom bevel going from underneath. I don't know if you guys can tell what I'm doing. Again, I'm filming this by myself, so Vicky had someplace to go, some other stuff going on. So anyway, this matte black, the first time I used it, I was really happy with it. We'll see this time. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry. It takes about 20 minutes to dry, maybe a half hour. Then I'm going to pull that stuff off, sand that surface a little bit around on the back and here, and then we will get into finishing, I promise. Anyway, be right back. All right, folks, we're back. So here's the deal. I got this thing ready to put the finish on, and I'm going to do that in just a second, but I have to explain something first, a couple things. Normally, the finish on something like this, I would always be doing with a critter sprayer, but I'm not going to on this particular instance, and I'll tell you why. The customer specifically asked for more of a satin finish rather than a gloss. And there's a lot of people that would rather have a satin or a flat finish rather than a gloss. I'm more of a gloss guy. That's what I like. But I'm going to do what the customer is asking me. So normally I would use, you guys know this is my favorite. This is a high gloss, obviously made for exterior. Pretty expensive stuff. This gallon cost me $72. Pretty expensive stuff. This sign, by the way, is all interior. It's going inside. So that's a plus. Generally speaking, interior finish is going to be a lot less than exterior. Now, normally I would be putting this on there, and I've used this a few times, sprayed it with my critter, works really well. I really like it. This is actually, I'm sure it is an interior finish only. Doesn't say here, so that tells me I think it is. I would only put this on an interior stuff. But being as it, again, this customer wants a satin finish on an exterior, I picked up some of this stuff. It's a one coat polyurethane. It's interior only, and again, it's one coat. I tried this with my critter sprayer, and I got to tell you, it didn't spray very well. Now, it could be that I'm just not used to it, but it's really thick. It's super thick. I think if I played around with it enough, it would work fine for me, but I didn't want, I'm kind of on a time frame on this, and I need to get it done. So I'm actually going to brush it on. I did try it on a scrap piece. I always want to try stuff on a scrap piece. So this is, I put this on there. I don't know if you can tell. And it has a little bit of a sheen to it, but it's definitely not high gloss. It's a satin finish. This is just a piece of redwood scrap that I had laying around. This is, you know, I obviously didn't even sand it or anything. So I put some of this one coat on here, and I think it's going to give the customer what she wants. So we're going to come right back again. I'm filming by myself. We're going to come back, and I'm going to show you the sign, and then put the finish on, and I'm going to actually brush it on. So I just had to kind of explain that. I'll be right back. So here's how the sign turned out. Actually really happy with it so far. I'm a little bit nervous about using this new finish that I haven't used actually on a sign before, but I think I'm going to be okay with it. So it says it takes 2 hours to dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this thing out of the way, and you guys are going to watch me apply this. Actually, I'll start at that end right there. Again, remembering, guys, that this thing is all that surface that shows up as wood right now, all that flat surface, the outset letters and the border, that is all going to be, it's all going to be painted black. So it's going to be, the only thing that's going to look like wood is the background. So this stuff, this finish, again, it's super thick. And it says to stir it very well, which I did before, but I just stirred it again. And it says not to shake it, but to stir it. So that's what I did. So now, again, let me see what the camera looks like here. This stuff looks kind of milky, but it dries clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all of the background first, and then I will do the border afterwards. Stuff is super thick. So, and I have brushed finish on before, not this stuff obviously. I've done the Helmsman spar urethane. I've brushed that stuff on before, and it tends to be kind of milky, or it kind of foams up. It's not milky. It kind of foams up when you put the finish on. It kind of foams up down in the textured groove like this. So I'm gonna kind of take my time and work my way around. You see, I really don't want it pooling up down in there. So I'm kind of working it in. Actually, if you go back and watch the video that I did in collaboration with Chris Berry, the Idaho painter, where he was actually brushing on the Czar. That's the first time I'd ever heard of the Czar polyurethane, the stuff that I spray with my critter. He advocates always brushing on a finish like this when you've got a texture, and that's where he and we kind of differ in our philosophy on it. To me, I think you get a better coverage down in all of those little nooks and crannies using a spray gun. But you know, he brushed it on, and that's what he suggested. So in this particular instance, I'm brushing it on, and I just want to make sure that I don't have any pooling down in there. So I just have to kind of keep track. It says that the dry time on this stuff is a couple hours, and 24 hours for full usage. Again, I'm only going to go, I don't anticipate putting more than one coat on this thing. I think one coat is what this stuff is made for. So that's my, gosh, I hope I'm still on camera here. I think I am. Anyway, guys, so if you're brushing on finishes, again, this is a little bit different. When I was doing the Helmsman spar urethane, traditionally it would foam up as you're working it in and moving it around, and and it almost always it kind of freaks you out when it foams up like that, but it always dries clear as long as you don't have it too thick down in there. So I think you guys can, this area here is what I'm kind of filming. Let me move the camera a little bit. So I'm going to work my way down the board. Then once I get all of the background covered the way I want, then I'll go back and do my surfaces. But the background, I want to make sure and get good coverage down in there while not allowing it to pool too much. Alright guys, this is going to take me a little while. It's not my favorite thing to do, brush on a finish. But the next step after this should be dry in a couple hours. Probably I'll let it sit all night long, and then tomorrow I will be painting all of my flat surfaces. I will be painting those black with the one-shot. Anyway, guys, that is it. I think you can kind of see where I'm going here. Actually, it looks pretty cool. I like it so far. I hope it dries. That stuff dries clear, but I'm pretty sure it will. I'll keep working it in and making sure that it's not pooled up places, but now I'm just rambling. So we'll be back, guys. When we come back, this should all be dry, and we'll get into the last step, which is painting the surface. Be back in a minute. Hi folks. All right, so this finish is dry. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out, but I will tell you that it was a lot of work. What I mean by that is, you guys saw me brushing it on there and how I was kind of being careful not to let it pool because it's white. It goes on kind of whitish. And what I had to do, literally, it took me over an hour because it was warm enough yesterday that stuff was starting to dry, and it was starting to dry the places that it was kind of pooled up. It was starting to dry and it was staying white. So it was kind of freaking me out. So I literally took this brush and I went all the way around every groove that was carved and all the way back in the background, every place that it was pooling up. I literally had to go over all of it to get that stuff out of there so it didn't solidify and dry. So again, not my favorite thing to do, brushing on a coat, but I'm actually happy with the way it came out. So now it's time to do the black. So we've got our one shot, and I am going to kind of work my way from the left to the right. So you guys are gonna, again, I'm not sure exactly whether I'm gonna have to go down over the edge or leave the edge. I haven't decided yet. Now that I'm getting an idea of what it looks like on there, I'm not sure whether I'm going to go down over the edge. My hunch is I am, because it's definitely is not, you know, they're both black, but one of them is kind of is a matte, actually. That's the Krylon matte, and this one shot is gloss. So
you're talking about the outside edge.
yeah, this bevel, I had mentioned it before when I was on camera that I didn't know whether I was going to need to go all the way down to the bottom in order for it to match up. So I think I'm going to go ahead and paint it all the way it is, just like I'm doing right now, and then I will determine. But my hunch is I'm going to have to paint that edge all the way down to the bottom, which doesn't excite me in the least. But I get myself into these things, and I just have to work my way through it. So, and being as this is I'm kind of on a time frame to try and get this thing done and out of here in the next day or two. So I'm going to keep now. So I have to do like the outside edge and the letters at the same time and just work my way from the left to the right, which is going to be time consuming. Fortunately, it looks like, because of this finish that I've got on it, it certainly is not soaking in at all. It's staying right on top. So I don't think there's any doubt that I'm not going to have to put a second coat, which with a one shot generally you don't anyway if you put your finish on first. I think it actually looks kind of cool. However, my customer, I'm not sure on my customer, because they asked specifically for, that's the reason I use this finish, because they asked for a flat. But I don't have a flat black paint. I'm using one shot. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Anyway, guys, so I'm going to, we'll be back in just a second for you and about 3 hours for me. So we'll be back and see what it looks like. Okay, folks, so here's what we got. I thought I would be making this last scene and we would be done. Wrong. Again. So here's what we got. I actually, I got the sign all painted, and as you can see, actually came out pretty nice. But I sent the picture to my customer, who is super sweet. Gina is just amazing. She's a sign carver herself and does some really nice stuff, but she just didn't have the time to do this one and asked me to do it. Anyway, but here's the thing. Remember how I said that she really wanted a flat or a matte finish on it? She didn't care for the gloss. And her customer, this is actually for her boss, who for a customer. Anyway, it's a long story. Bottom line is she would rather not have the gloss. So, and then the second part of the sign, remember the original artwork. See the way this looks? I made it opposite of that. And I thought that would be okay, but she would rather that it looked more like this, flat black, with wood color letters. So I have to fix this one too. So here's my plan. This was actually her suggestion, but I've got two alternate plans in case one doesn't work, then I'm going to try the other. So what I have done, you can see that's mostly gloss on there, but on this corner right there, see how that looks kind of muted or kind of flat? It's because I sanded it. So what I did was I bought some 400 sand of these mesh discs, and I tried to sand one little corner. You guys know my general rule is don't experiment on a customer sign. Do it separately. But unfortunately, I don't have the time. I got to fix this. I don't have time to test different methods. I need to fix this one. So what I'm going to try to do, what I'm going to attempt to do, and what I've attempted to do there that I'm not sure about this, is I've sanded this off with a disc. This is a 1,000 grit disc, or no, excuse me, this is 400. With my little DeWalt. This isn't the big one. This is a random orbital. This isn't the big disc sander. Tried to have a light touch, but as you can maybe see, it actually went through the black in a couple of places there. I'm just not sure that's going to work. But I'm going to attempt to sand the gloss off of all of this first, and then maybe I can touch it up with a flat black so I don't have to repaint the whole thing. I'm going to attempt that. On this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this black. This is my plan. I'm going to paint this black because I got some flat black. This is actually latex, but it is oil-based, which is what this paint is. So I'm going to attempt to paint this whole thing black and then recarve that so that it ends up being wood color. Wish me luck. That's my plan with the little one. With the big one, I'm going to try to sand off all the gloss. And if it turns out that I don't have good luck with this, then I bought some 1,000 grit, just sandpaper. I got a package here somewhere. 1,000 grit hand sandpaper, and I'll just hand sand it. Then once that's done, I got some matte clear Rust-Oleum, again oil-based, and be able to just put a clear spray on it. If I hadn't been in such a hurry to begin with, I should have done this again to begin with. I should have gone and bought some flat black, or this is, yeah, flat black. That's what I should have painted this with to begin with. Anyway, my mistake, and now I got to fix it. So that's my plan. When we come back, I'll let you know how that worked out with the sanding and whether I need to just cover the whole thing and paint the whole thing again. My hunch is that's probably what I'm going to need to do, because even if, you know, the little places that I've sanded through here, I know I'm getting into a lot of stuff, even though a couple little places that is sanded through and I see wood in there, I don't know whether I can touch it up with this flat black and whether it'll be a match. My hunch is chances are not very likely. So my guess is I'm going to try and sand it all anyway, because I think even if I have to repaint it, it's probably best that I sand off this gloss to give this flat black something better to adhere to, because this is really slick and shiny. This surface here, you guys couldn't see that, but this is really slick and shiny, so I'm better off sanding this gloss off anyway, even if I do end up painting the flat black over the top. Again, this is oil-based, this is the one shot, and this is oil-based as well. Anyway, that's my plan, guys. So wish me luck, and we'll be right back, and I'll tell you how it worked out. Okay, guys, so we're we've got this, as you might have guessed, I'm filming this by myself. Anyway, Vicky has got so much stuff going on that I told her I can handle this one by myself. Hopefully it'll work out. So, anyway, so I have got the flat black, and I'm going to paint all the way around the edge and then on the surface as well. So, and then I started looking at this more, and actually it is water-based, which I should have known that since it says latex. I think latex is water-based. So I'm probably breaking a cardinal rule by which, again, guys, I am not a professional painter or finisher or, you know, pretend to even be one. I'm just a sign guy that tries to figure this stuff out. Anywho, so I'm hoping that this oil base covers this this water based stuff okay. Although, yeah, this has got actually a water based finish on the top of the. I think I used the primer on this, which is oil based. So oil based underneath, then water based on top. And now I'm going oil base over the top of the whole thing. Yeah, so I'm probably breaking every rule in the painting world. But, yeah, anyway, I'm trying to figure it out. So, let's see. So my plan is to paint this thing all black. And I don't know whether it's all going to cover in one coat. And then what I'll do is after it's good and dry, then I will mask it off. Or maybe I won't. Actually, I probably won't, because then I wouldn't be able to see my letters. So then after that's dry, then I will I'll recarve all of these letters, get them back to wood color, and then whatever I have to touch up, I'll touch it up with this black. That's my plan. We'll see. It's kind of a new thing for me, but it's only a hunk of wood. If I mess it up, I'll just do it again. So I'm hoping, I'm not sure this is covering very well, good enough to be one coat. We'll see. Maybe. It does say that it's fast drying, so if I have to put 2 coats on it, that's okay. No big deal. While this is drying, that's why I figured I'd do this first. While this is drying, then I can start working on fixing the big one. And I could have just tried to paint the surface of this, hoping that it would match good enough to the edge, but I thought, well, now I might as well go over the whole thing. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest of this. Not a whole lot left of it. But I'll paint the rest of it off camera, and we'll move on to the next thing after this. Be right back. Okay, folks, so I have got, I went ahead and used my disc sander with my 400 grit screen paper that I showed you earlier, and I am, so now you can see all the sheen is pretty much gone off of there, all of the gloss. Now I've started painting the flat black right there. You can see it on the M, and I'll do a little bit more on camera so you can see. I'm running way long on this video, but I just definitely want to get this thing done on this video. I don't want this to go over to a third video. So all I'm doing is exactly what I was doing before. I'm just painting the surface of these letters. And I think I had mentioned before that I was going to work my way down, but that didn't make sense. It makes sense to do all of this stuff inside and then go around and do the outside. That makes more sense, working from the inside out. That way I'm not putting my arm in paint. Hopefully, theoretically, that's the way it's supposed to work. Anyway, so I am going to finish this up and paint these letters all the way around. Let it dry. Then we're going to put that clear matte finish that I showed you earlier. We're going to put that over the top of it and see what it looks like. Hopefully we won't have to do this again. We'll be right back. All right, so we are moving on with getting this thing fixed. So that black that I painted on here, this is that flat black, actually covered really nice with one coat. So now what I got to do is attempt to go in there and recarve those letters to try and get them back to wood color. So I'm using the same bit that I used before. I got my carving liner in my little Makita. So we are going to attempt to do this. I'm going to start on the E, and we're going to do it so I can really keep my flat lines or my straight lines. I'm going to be able to kind of turn this as I need to. All right, so let's get on with it.
Get her done.
Get it done. All right, here we go. I think I'm set at about 1/8 of an inch, I believe. Yep, a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. I think will be about right. I might have to adjust it. Let's find out. Let's plug it in. Here we go. Something like this, guys, this is what you got to watch out for. We've got a little buildup on that router bit, and that is that paint, and I thought I was just going to be able to peel that off of there. So this is where the little brass Dremel tool would come in handy. But what I'm going to try to attempt to do here. So here, this is something, I don't know if I've ever showed this. I will use my pocket knife. Normally that would be against all common sense, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it on the back side, on the heel. The edge is right here. I don't want to touch that edge with my pocket knife because it's metal to metal. But if I'm on the back, I can just peel that off. See, I completely missed the edge. I was on here, although there I just touched it. But I peeled it off, popped it off, just from the back side. This is a single fluted bit, so if this was a profile bit, that would be a lot tougher because there would be 2 flutes on here, whereas this one is just, it's all heel except for right on the edge, just 1 flute. Anyway, yeah, so that's something I didn't really count on, but this thing is just turning into a nightmare. But I'm going to fight my way through it. Here we go. sketchy stuff. So now you may ask, how am I going to get that black out of there? I'm going to put the profile, change over to the profile bit, and take the rest of that out of there. Now, everything being equal, probably I might save time by not doing this, because that took a long time just to get that black off of there. But it wouldn't be as challenging. This is definitely challenging, and I love a challenge. So I am going to do the rest of this. I'll put my profile bit in, and then come back and we'll take that out, and we'll see how that looks. Can you kind of get down in there? Yeah.
Well, let's see. Hold it up. Let's see what I can.
So that's the cool thing about this being so small, is you saw I probably rotated, what, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So I've got a couple little places that I still need to get out, right in that corner, and maybe a couple little places. But stuff that you could see was on the different opposite side of what I could see. That's why I kept rotating it to see what I needed to, so I could scrape that black off the side of that letter. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I let myself get into this stuff. Anyway, we'll be right back and we'll take the rest of that black out. All right, so I've got my profile bit. Now I'm going to see if I can get the rest of that black out of there, down inside. Okay, so now, could some of that stuff be taken out with a, little X-Acto knife or your pocket knife? Sure, you could do it that way too. Again, this is not my normal deal, but Vicky and I were just talking about it, and it was like, well, this is something I hadn't done on. I've done this prior to when I had to do something like this, but I don't think I've ever done it on camera. That right there, I think I need to go in with the profile bit and do that. Hang on just a second. That's kind of deep. So, that only took about a half hour, so I'll have this done in about 4 hours. I'll be good to go. Anyway, all right, guys. You know me. If I'm making a mistake, I'm going to try and fix it, and hopefully you guys can learn something. Now, whether, again, I think probably I could have just made this thing all over from the start, but this is something that I hadn't done on camera before. Sometimes I've done this like when I'm up in Oatman and I don't really have the option, and I gotta do something. So anyway, I'm rambling now, so I'm going to finish the rest of these off camera. Then when we come back, if everything goes right, we'll be all done and it'll be the final scene. So hang with us, we'll be right back. All right, boys and girls, finally we are done. So I have gone and put my satin finish on top of this, and then the little one, I got the letters the letters and numbers all cleaned out, and then I actually had to touch up the surface of it with black again, just like I had to repaint this, but I believe that the customer will definitely be happy with it now. I hope. Anyway, that's it. So I'm hoping this was helpful for you guys. I left in some mistakes that I made, some redos, which is I don't do a lot of, but I thought it would be helpful for you guys to show you guys how I solve issues and whatnot. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm so sorry this video went long, I'm hoping that I can get it up on Wednesday's video and post it on time, but I got to process it and it's going to be a while. Anyway, thanks guys. Hope you have a great week. We love you. If you have any questions, Eric at makerwoodsign.com. I've got about 17 things going through my mind right now. And we're probably starting a new project very soon. Next week we got some great videos coming up that I think you guys will like. So stay with us and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.